On tonight, I want you to think about two scriptures that perhaps expresses our frustration in times like these. The first being Psalms chapter 10 and verse number 1. The second, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. Again, Psalms chapter 10 and verse 1, and Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. As we are turning to these passages of Scripture, we find ourselves saying, not again. Not again in response to another weekend of gun violence. Not again to the idea that there have been nearly 14,000 deaths this year by gun violence. Not again to the idea that we are on the 128th day of the year, and yet we've had 199 incidents that have been classified as a mass shooting, which means there have been more mass shootings this year than there have been days in the year. Not again to the idea that beyond mass shootings, there are violent deaths, there are suicides. As a matter of fact, there are averaging 66 deaths by suicide per day in this country. All of these things must make us say, not again. And we wonder, where is God, or what is God doing, or why is God allowing such things? We need to wrap our minds around some sense of understanding or perspective, lest we find ourselves in the most uneasy way because of these things that overwhelm us and frustrate us. We're not the only ones to experience this frustration because we don't always understand how God works. In Psalms 10 and verse 1, "Why, Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?" In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 1 through 3, "Again I looked and saw the oppression that was taking place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they have no comforter. Power was on the side of their oppressors, and they have no comforter. And I declared that the dead who had already died are happier than the living who are still alive. But better than both is the one who has never been born, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun." There has been, there is, and there will always be frustration at the appearance of evil in any form, and our bewilderment as to why God is not moving in a very different way. Let me ask you to think about what God's doing and to think about what we can do. First, God is showing us the results of evil in hopes that we will choose good over evil. Second, God is providing us the grace and mercy needed so that we will surrender our lives to Him. We don't have time to play with God. We don't have time to play with our own lives. It's time to really surrender to Him. It's one thing to just get baptized, but have you committed your life to God? The third thing that God is doing is providing us an opportunity to share the gospel with others. How many people are you sharing the gospel with? How many people are you encouraging to have a relationship with God? So what can we do? we can praise and worship God like never before. I'm not talking about entertainment or emotional worship. I'm talking about truly giving praise and adoration and glory and honor to God. We can surrender to Him. We could submit to Him, and we can serve Him, and we can share Him with others. The psalmist raised a question that we perhaps raise. The book of Ecclesiastes expresses sentiments that we experience. But always remember, silence on God's part is not consent. Maybe He's giving us some time to do some things that while we're busy saying what God is doing, maybe God is busy saying, what are you doing? This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.